What if the life you're living right now started in your mind long before it became real? Not your circumstances, not your luck, not your environment. Your thoughts, the images you replay, the stories you believe, the future you quietly expect. Think about it. Before anything happens in your life, you imagine it first. Failure, success, rejection, confidence. You see it, you feel it, and then you move in that direction, almost automatically. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people are visualizing their worst life, without even realizing it. They imagine things going wrong. They expect failure. They replay past mistakes. They picture rejection before it happens. And then they wonder, why does this keep happening to me? But wait, what if it's not random? What if your mind is rehearsing your reality before you step into it? Now think about this. Have you ever felt nervous about something, and it went exactly how you feared? Or you felt confident, and everything just clicked? That's not coincidence. That's alignment. Because your brain doesn't know the difference between something vividly imagined and something real. It reacts the same way. Same emotions, same signals, same preparation. So if you constantly imagine stress, your body prepares for stress. If you imagine failure, your actions lean toward failure. If you imagine confidence, you show up differently. Now here's the part nobody tells you. Visualization isn't magic. It's programming. You're training your brain on what to expect. And your brain loves to prove itself right. Now let me ask you something. What do you see when you think about your future? Be honest. Do you see clarity, growth, control, or do you see confusion, fear, and uncertainty? Because that picture in your mind matters more than you think. It's shaping your decisions, quietly, every single day. Now here's a realization that might hit hard. You don't rise to what you want. You move toward what you repeatedly imagine. Let that sit, because it explains a lot. You've been trying to change your life without changing the images in your mind. So your actions stay the same, your patterns repeat, your results don't move. Now here's a quiet confession most people won't admit. I think about what I don't want more than what I do. If that feels familiar, that's the starting point. Because awareness was where everything begins. Now here's where things shift. Visualization isn't just about dreaming. It's about direction. Because your brain works like this. Whatever you focus on consistently, it builds around. It filters information. It changes your behavior. It adjusts your attention. So if your mind is filled with doubt, you'll notice problems more. If your mind is filled with clarity, you'll notice opportunities. Same world. Different focus, different outcome. Now here's a question. Why do we keep imagining the worst, even when we want the best? Think about it. Because this is where it gets deeper. Your brain is designed for survival, not success. It scans for danger. It prepares for problems. It expects difficulty. And that's useful for survival, but destructive for growth. Because if you don't take control, your mind will default to fear-based visualization, worst-case scenarios, negative outcomes, doubt, and over time, that becomes your reality. Not because life is against you, but because your focus is. Now imagine this instead. You start your day, and before anything happens, you see yourself handling it well. Calm, focused, in control. You visualize conversations going smoothly, work flowing, challenges being handled. Not perfectly, but confidently. And suddenly, you show up differently. You speak differently. You decide differently. That's the power, not fantasy, preparation. But wait till you hear this, because most people try visualization and still don't see results. And the reason why changes everything. Because here's where it gets real. Most people don't fail at visualization. They fail at feeling it. They see the image, but they don't believe it. They imagine success while emotionally expecting failure. And your brain? It listens to emotion more than images every time. So when you visualize something, but deep down you're thinking, yeah, but this probably won't happen, you've already canceled it. Not because visualization doesn't work, but because you're sending mixed signals. Now think about that. You're telling your brain, here's what I want, but also, here's what I actually expect. And your brain always follows expectation, not desire. That's the gap. That's why people stay stuck. Now here's the shift. Visualization isn't just about seeing, it's about experiencing. You don't just picture the outcome, you step into it, you feel it. You act like it's already real. And I know, that sounds uncomfortable, almost fake, like you're lying to yourself. But here's the truth. Your current reality was built the same way, just unconsciously. You practiced doubt, you rehearsed fear, you repeated negative outcomes, and eventually, they felt real. So this isn't about becoming fake, it's about becoming intentional. Now here's a moment you might recognize. You're about to try something new, and your mind immediately says, what if I mess this up? What if I fail? What if people judge me? And before you even begin, you've already experienced the failure in your head. So when the moment comes, you hesitate, you hold back, you don't fully commit. And guess what happens? You don't perform at your best, not because you're incapable, but because your brain was already prepared for failure. Now flip that. Same situation, but this time, before it happens, you close your eyes. You see yourself doing it well, handling it calmly, speaking clearly, thinking sharply, and more importantly, you feel it, the confidence, the control, the ease. Now when the moment comes, you don't hesitate. You recognize it, because you've already been there. That's the difference. That's how visualization shapes reality. Now here's the part nobody tells you. Your brain is always visualizing, even right now. The question is, are you controlling it, or is it controlling you? Because if you don't choose your mental images, your fears will, automatically. Now let me say something honest. I used to think visualization was just wishful thinking, like sitting around imagining success while doing nothing. But that's not what this is. Real visualization changes behavior, it changes focus, it changes identity. And identity is what drives everything. Because you don't act based on goals, you act based on who you believe you are. So if you see yourself as someone who fails, you'll act like it. If you see yourself as someone disciplined, you'll act like it. If you see yourself as someone confident, you'll show up that way, even before it's fully true. Now here's a question. Which version of yourself do you see most often? Be honest. The confident one or the doubtful one? Because whichever one you repeat becomes your default. Now this next part changes everything. Visualization isn't about escaping reality. It's about training for it. You're running mental simulations, preparing your brain, so when the real moment arrives, you're not reacting, you're executing. But here's the catch. It only works if you're consistent. Not once, not when you feel motivated. Daily, quietly, without needing results immediately, because this is internal work, and internal work takes time before it shows externally. Now think about this. If you spent years reinforcing doubt, why would confidence appear overnight? It won't, but it will build, moment by moment, image by image, feeling by feeling, until one day you notice something different.
You don't panic like before. You don't hesitate as much. You don't overthink every move, and that's when it hits you. This is working. But wait, because there's one mistake almost everyone makes next, and it can quietly destroy all your progress.
There's one final shift, and it's the one that turns visualization into reality. You stop treating it like something you do, and start treating it like who you are. Because here's the truth. If visualization is just a technique, you'll use it sometimes. But if it becomes your identity, you'll live it every day. Now think about this. Right now, without realizing it, you already have a mental identity, a version of yourself you expect to be. Maybe it sounds like this. I'm not consistent. I overthink everything. I always mess things up. And those thoughts, they aren't random. They're rehearsed, repeated, reinforced, until they feel like facts. Now here's the shift. You don't try to fix your life directly. You change the version of yourself you keep seeing. Because once that changes, your behavior follows, automatically. Now imagine this. Instead of seeing yourself as someone stuck, you start seeing someone who follows through, someone calm, focused, disciplined, not perfect, but consistent. And you don't just say it, you see it every day, in detail, how you wake up, how you respond, how you act under pressure, how you handle distractions. And slowly, that version starts to feel familiar, and what feels familiar becomes natural. Now here's the part nobody tells you. You don't need full belief to start. You just need repetition, because belief isn't the starting point, it's the result of seeing the same identity over and over again. Now let me say something honest. At first it will feel strange, uncomfortable, even fake, because you're stepping out of your current identity, and your brain will resist. It will say, this isn't you. This won't last. Go back to what's normal. But that's the moment that matters most, because if you push through that discomfort, you create something new. Now here's a question. Who would you be if you actually believed in your own vision, not partially, not sometimes, fully? How would you think? How would you act? How would you respond to challenges? Because that version of you already exists. It just hasn't been practiced enough. Now here's the final truth. Visualization works because it changes how you show up. Not magically, practically. You notice different things, you make different decisions, you take different actions, and over time, those small shifts create a new reality. Now imagine this. You walk into situations with clarity, not confusion, with intention, not reaction, with confidence, not doubt, not because life got easier, but because your mind got stronger. That's the power. That's the shift. Now let's bring this back to you, right now, because this isn't about theory, it's about what you do next. The next time you feel stuck, pause and ask yourself, what am I imagining right now? Because that image is shaping your next move. If it's fear, change it. If it's doubt, replace it. If it's uncertainty, reframe it, because you always have control over that. Now here's the final question. What kind of life are you rehearsing in your mind every day? Because whatever you keep seeing, you'll eventually start living. That's not motivation. That's how your brain works. And now, you know it. So use it. If this hits something real in you, don't just move on. Stay with it. And if you want more like this, subscribe and start becoming the person who sees it first and then lives it.